Alrighty, well hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are playing some Roblox. I just wanted to put out a video there for data saves. Why? Well, my daughter plays a lot of Roblox, and I spend a lot of money in Roblox, sadly, because you have kids making games for kids, and they set their own prices. So, you know, prices tend to be way out to lunch sometimes. And then the other thing I noticed too is that a lot of the games, for whatever reason, they don't seem to save your transaction data, or it gets wiped, or it gets reset. Oh, whatever. So I guess I was just trying to, I don't know what that is, trying to print some code or something. Cancel that. All right. Yeah. So what I wanted to do in this video is just go over how to make a leaderboard that saves, and then how to make a part, I guess. We'll take this, and what it'll do is it'll give us experience, or it'll give us cash, and that transaction will also save. So basically what I'm trying to do is, I find that maybe that's the issue here. Yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is in server script service. So this world here is just your very first. When you first download Studio, it gives you like your first creation. That's all it is, and it's published. So that's why I wanted to use it, because it's already published. All right, so then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the leaderboards script, which is pretty easy. So first thing we want to do is we want to connect this to the data store. So we're going to say local data store service equals game get service, and then we say data store service. Data store service. Alright, then we'll say local my data store equals, and then we say data store service. Yes, that code there, exactly. It says tab to accept. Perfect. So that's what we need there. My data store. You can call it whatever you want. It's just the name of the data store. It could be the name of the game. It could be whatever. All right. So then we're going to say, what happens when the player joins the game? So we want to say game.players.player added. And then we want to say connect function, which we are connecting. We're now programming a function. So what happens when the player joins the game? And we're going to say local. We're going to create a folder called leader stats. Now, how do we do that? When we want to create something, we say instance. Instance.new. Anytime you want to create a motor or anything, just say instance.new, and then name what you want to create. In this case, it's going to be a folder, but it could be a motor, it could be a part, it could be anything, and then you can actually program all what you want the part to be, the color, the size, everything else. It's actually pretty cool. All right, so now we say leader stats dot name equals, and we'll just call it leader stats. You can call it anything you want. We could call it cash. We could call it whatever. And then we need leader stats dot parent will be the player. All right, and that's what we want to add in here. We want to add player as the connecting function. All right, perfect. Let's see. Otherwise, we have to go player equals game dot player dot local players. Then we want to say we're going to add a value now. So we'll say local cash, whatever you want to call it, right? And we'll say instance dot new. Same thing. We're going to create a folder, and inside that folder, we're going to create a string value. Which is what we're doing now. So this is the leader stats folder. I don't need this local here. I'm just getting a little confused. See if I can sort this out here. All right, this is the folder here, and now what we're doing is we are creating the values that are going to be in the folder. So we want to say local, that's right, cash equals, we want to say instance.new, This is going to be inside the folder, and what we want is we want an integer value, right? You can make it a bool value if you want to track something else. Do they have this? Do they have that? On, off, right? And those are things that we can track. So we'll say cash dot name equals, doesn't matter, it can be whatever you want to call it. We'll just say we'll say money. All right, we'll say money, and then cash dot parent equals leader stats. All right, so what we're doing is we're parenting this to this. We're making this integer a child of that folder, so it's going to be inside the folder. Yeah, okay, so we can just stop with that there, and that's all we need for that. So now what we need to do is we need to create the what's called the pcall. Basically what that will do is it will check to make sure the values are the values, and if it can't get the values, it's going to give us an error message. And that's what you want. Anytime you do a transaction, you want to check to make sure it's saved, and if it doesn't save, it gives you an error message, and that way it doesn't accidentally update without going through the proper checks and balances, right? So we'll say local data, and then we say local success or error message. We could just say message, and then this is going to equal pcall. All right, and then in here we want to say function. Okay, and then this end here is for the players.player added. So all this code is going to be inside this function, in case you're wondering. Right? It's going to be inside this function. So this is what we need for the pcall. And then now what we need to do is we need to say data equals, and then we want to say my data store, because that's where we're saving the data. And then we want to say get async. Get async. So what we're doing is we are retrieving player .user ID dot, and we want to say what now. This is the key. So this is the name that we're going to use inside the data store to retrieve that value on the server where it's stored. So I would say like save it like money and then the name of the game, right? So we could say money, and then this is like the first game. So I'll just say money first, right? If you want to do anything else, experience, whatever, make sure that you have a different variable for each integer or value that you want to track. All right? Otherwise, you start having issues. You don't want to store all this data under a single variable, because later on in the game, when you start expanding on this and you start having different areas where the player starts to interact, you're going to start having you're going to start getting data errors, big time data errors. All right. So then we want to say so that's our function. Then outside of that function, we are going to write an if statement, and we want to say if success, then we want to say what is it, money. Oh, I'm going to change this. Let's see. Yeah. Perfect, just like that. Except I don't think we need this here. All right, so if cash.value, if success, then cash.value equals data. And then what I do is I want to print, just so that way we know what's going on, right? And then I'll say leaderboard loaded. And then this, just so that way I know what I'm doing, if I'm doing like any kind of whatever, trying to find an error, like why isn't this function loading or whatever. That's the perfect way to do it. Then we'll say else print. So that's, if it's successful, it's going to say leaderboard loaded. If it's not successful, it's going to give us the error message, right? So here we're going to print the error message, and that's just going to say leaderboard did not load, okay, or something like that. There was an error with your data. All right, and that's it. So if we added another value, let's say we copied this, all right, and let's say we, instead of cash, we called it experience, right? EXP, and then we need to change this, EXP, and then we need to change this to EXP, and then instead of money, we'll call it experience, EXPERIENC, experience. So then what we'll need to do here, we need to create a pcall for the experience part. So we just take this, we copy this, all right? And we just repeat the function, except instead of data, we're going to call this data B. And instead of money first, we're going to call this EXP first, all right? So anytime you try and recall how much experience you have, it's going to say, we're going to use this value, EXP first, all right? And then it's the same thing, and then instead of saying leaderboard loaded, we will say EXP loaded, right? Experience loaded, and then we can say experience did not load. Experience did not load, and then it'll print this down here when we start the game, and that should be it. That should conclude our leaderboard, right? Very simple, connected to the data store. As soon as the player joins the game, we're going to create two folders, one for money, one for experience, and then it's going to update as soon as the player joins. So we'll play it, and it's going to give me some errors, I think, because the values, I haven't published this. So there's our leaderboard, there's our money, and there's our experience. Now it says data store studio is not allowed, studio access. Because I have to enable the API. Now, if we go to let's see here. Oh boy. Trying to, I think it's game settings here. Yeah, and then if we go to communication, permissions, monetization, I think it's security. What does it say? It says we need API access. I don't allow third party, but then I allow HT, but we don't actually need that right now. But just this one here, enable API services, and we'll save that. And now it shouldn't give me the errors when I join. There we go. But what it does is it gives me a warning. It says the value of nil could not be converted to a number, right? So it's just saying, okay, so now we've loaded into our experience, and here we are. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to now give the player money, and we want to give the player experience, and we want to be able to save that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this object here. Oh, that's weird. Maybe that's where I am. And we're going to rename this to giver, all right? And we may as well just put that in the workspace, so that way there's no confusion. So this is what we're working on, giver. So we're going to we're going to insert a proximity prompt, and we're going to insert a script. Now, why do we insert a proximity prompt? Because when the player triggers the proximity prompt, that's going to allow us to detect, okay, who triggered the prompt, that player, and that's going to allow us to transfer the data to the player and not to every player or not to the wrong player. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to tell our script to wait. Anytime you make these scripts, you want to tell them to wait. It will help with the latency. All right, and then now we need to get the data store. So what I'll do is I'll come over here to our leader stats script that we created, right? And then we want to, very first thing it does is it connects to the data store. All right. There's a couple other things we can do here as well. We can create a badge. Let's see. If we go here and we go to, I think I have to find my experience. I don't know how to do that. Creations, this one here. And then you have to go to view analytics. Yeah, there we go. And then we'll say badges. We're going to create a badge. We'll just upload an image. I'm going to use the hamburger here. And it's just going to say welcome. Alright, and then we'll say welcome to the game. Now, why is this important? This is important because we're actually going to be using this badge as part of the transaction. Alright, so now we create a badge. Perfect. Click on create badge. There we go. Now we have a badge. Okay, now if you want to add like a game pass, this is where you'll do it. Passes. Let's see, where is it? Developer products. Create a developer product. Upload an image. Give a description and give a price. It's the same thing. And so I think maybe what I'll do is we'll go over passes. I'll do another video here where we go over passes, because basically what you can do is you're creating an ID, and then in the game you associate that ID with whatever objects you want it to be in the game. So when the player joins the game, if they have that specific ID, you can either clone all those objects that are associated to that ID on the player, or you can use that ID as a way to check the player to make sure they can interact with certain objects in your game. Right? Easy peasy, easy peasy. Basically, it's that simple. So the welcome badge. So what we're going to do is we're going to say badge service, right? Local, and we're going to say badge, let's see, BADG. Badge service. Oh, and this should be equals, we're going to say game, get, what is it? Get service. All right, and then we're going to say badge service. Excellent, just like that. Then we're going to say local badge ID equals, and then what we need to do is we need to go back here. We need to copy our asset ID, and that is now going to be our badge ID. Perfect. And then we're going to say local level equals 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to give the player a level, and we're going to say local exp equals, and we'll say 100. We'll give them 100 experience, and we'll give them a level. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to say local button equals, we'll say script dot parent dot proximity prompt, and then what we need to do is we need to say requires line of sight off. Because it's inside the block, the player can't see the proximity prompt. Now, if you attach the proximity prompt to an attachment, you don't need to say, you can say requires line of sight, and then you can drag the attachment outside of the object and the player will be able to see it. That's my understanding of it. All right. Yeah, so now we can say button, right? Let's say dot trigger ended. All right, connect, and then function. And now here's where we make the function of what's going to happen when the player activates the prompt. So the first thing we're going to say is, now we could check. We could do a lot of things here. We're not going to do that on this one, but we could do a lot of things here. We could check to see, does the player have this and that? And if they do, then they can activate the prompt, else they get nothing. But we're not going to worry about that. So what we're going to do is we are going to say player dot leader stats. Oh, and then we need to add player into here, and that way it will silence this here. Player dot leader stats dot cache dot value. All right, equals player dot leader stats dot cache dot value. Oh yeah, there, like it just gives us the rest of it, except for the XP to store and the level to store. Oh, you can actually add that into a single pcall. Oh, that's cool. But we're not gonna we're gonna do it a little differently. I do the pcall a little differently. It doesn't matter. You could probably write it like that. But that's one way of doing it. That's actually pretty abridged. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to go copy, and we're going to do this. And then what I'll do here is I'll say amount equals, oh, actually, we don't actually do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that in this one. That's for something else. All right. So we can say leader stats to cash.value, and then we could say, oh, yeah, you know what? Amount equals, sure, 1,000. Because we're not actually giving them, we're not tracking their level. We're just tracking their experience and their cash on this one. So, equals that, and then we say plus amount. Just like that. And then we do the same thing. Player dot leader stats. And then we want to say dot experience. Oh, and this will actually have to be money. This is the money, and then this is going to be experience. So this has to be money, or else it won't. And then this here has to be experience, because that's what we named the integer. So that's what it's going to look for. It's going to say, okay, I found the file, but what is the integer? Experience dot value, because we're changing the value of it. And then we're going to say this. We're just going to copy that, paste that, and then I say plus exp. Just like that. And then what we want to do is we want to give the player the badge. So we are going to say oh yeah, badge service award. Okay, award badge. And then we're going to say player dot user ID, and then we're going to say badge ID. Perfect. So all these things are going to happen when we activate the prompt. Now what we need to do is we want to save that. So we can go back to our leader script. We can copy the pcall, which is what I do, and then we just paste the pcall into here. Now, instead of cache, oh, look at that. I already found a mistake here. I already found a mistake in the leaderboards. Cache, and this should be exp. Oops. And then that means that this one... Is that right? Oh boy, I'm confused now. I confused myself with that one. Yeah, and then cache should be... That's right. Hold on, I'm just going to load into the game here real quick just to see what I did. So if we look on the player and we look in the folder, that's leader stats, experience and money. Okay, so that's what we're tracking, experience and money. All right, so it created those two, and then exp.name. So this would be not cash.value. This should be money.value. And this should be experience.value. EXPER experience.value. Oh no, that's right. No, I had that right the first time. It's been a long day. And this one here is cash. That should be right. So experience and cash. So then when we're loading it, this needs to be EXP. And now we need to tell it to find... Oh, .money.value and .experience.value. Yeah, I've messed up here. I have messed up here. I think this needs to be cash. That's right. I don't even know anymore. And then this should be cash. It's telling me it can't find unknown global cash. What do I do here? Oh, because let's see. Oh, so we want to save this one under... And we're using the wrong ID here. Let's see. All right, so we want to save this one. Set a cash.value. What do we got here? Yeah, set async. This one here, we're going to set async as well. This one's going to be different. We're going to, instead of get async, we are going to set async. All right, so what we're doing is we're setting the value. We're setting the value on this one. This one's going to be set async as well. Set async. Now let me just figure this out. If cash... I just said if success, then, yeah, and then data equals data. Oh, I see. And then we update that. I think I don't need this, actually. Because we have data B. That's right. If success, then data equals data. Yeah. Equals data B equals data B. And if success, we want to say data equals data. There we go. Just like that. And that's how we want to set that up. Yeah, I had something else set up in here. Say, yeah, set async, whatever the value is. Except we're not going to use this. This expression has to change. The player.user ID, and then this one will be money first. But then we also want to say. Where we want to save it, right? Player dot leader stats. What did I say? Dot money dot value. Just like that. And then we want to do that here. We want to say player dot leader stats dot experience dot value. Yeah, so instead of this being cash, that's where I was getting confused, because the one I have is cash, but in this one here, I labeled it money, and I was like, oh no, what's going on? But that's how we want to save it, just like that, money.value, because it's so in the leader stats we create the values, and this is the name of the value, but this here is just this is how we're tracking it, but this is the name of the actual integer. So when we do the transaction, we need to find the actual integer and save it. And then you see we're also using our variables, right? So when we save the money, it saves with this variable, and when we save the experience, it saves under this variable. And that way when we recall the data, so here, let's just play the game and see how it works. Hopefully you've... All right, so we run out the door, and this is our interact, and there we go. I got a badge, and I got money, and I got experience. And then it said experience loaded, but what it didn't do... Oh, yes. All right, now if I quit, and now if I come back in, it should load. Look at that. It loaded our money, and it loaded our experience, and it says that I gave the badge. Okay, perfect. So that's how that works. So I hope you're following along. Let's just quickly recap what we did. So we created a leader stats script. We connected it to the data store. We created a folder in the player. Inside the player, we created two values. One is money, and one is experience. I could probably just rename that, right? And then what we did is we created a pcall for that data. It's funny because I'm saying experience dot value. Right. In here it's xp.value. I should be changing it to that just so it's easier to track. But anyways, that's how that works. Then what we did is we created a script which allows the player to earn money, to earn experience, and it gives them a badge. And how did we do that? We connected to the data store. We created a badge. We gave it the badge service and the ID. And then we created the amounts that we wanted to give the player. Then what we did is we created a function that says when the player activates the proximity prompt, it gives them money, and it gives them experience, and it gives them the badge. And then what it does, it saves that using the setAsync function. It saves that data. And this actually should be data B right here. That was my mistake, and I'm surprised it actually didn't give me an error. Data A, data B. Let's see if it gives me, there we go. Yeah, I'm surprised it actually didn't give me an error on that for tracking it. And then if we do it again, it won't give me the badge, but it'll give me the experience. And now if you check your experience and we go to error report, okay, well, I don't have any warnings yet in the last hour. It should have given me a warning and saying we've already given out badge ID to the player, and that way I could just show you that it checks. It'll automatically check. But yeah, so long as you do that, check it with a pcall every time. Make sure you set the syncing of the data, and then it will save. If you don't set the syncing of the data, it won't save. And so that's how you're able to this will be part 1, I guess. That's how we're able to give value to the player. Maybe what I'll do is I'll upload, I think I did an inventory save video, and I'll do another one. It's going to be long, but I have a better way of explaining it. But yeah, basically what you're going to do is you're going to create an inventory save, okay? And then when the player activates the prompt, it's going to open up a window, and that's how you can give players objects. Exactly the same way. Activate the proximity prompt, opens up a window, it gives the player the object, and then it will save. And it will save the same way. We just have to set the data store up a little different, so it saves the data instead of an integer. It'll save it as, you know, an actual folder with data inside that folder, right? And then you can give the player, that's how you give the player like uniforms or anything like that. And let's say you want that value to be saved. It's the same thing. Get async, set async, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so this was just a quick video. I just wanted to put it up there just for the community, just to show how to make a badge and how to save your data. There's a lot of really good games out there, and unfortunately there's a lot of good games that seem to have problems saving their data. So that's it. Also, if you track, okay, this badge ID will never change. It will never change. So long as you don't delete the badge, and so long as you don't change the ID, you'll always be able to give that badge, and you'll always be able to check if a player has this badge, so long as you don't change the asset ID. And I suspect where a lot of these games are having issues, this is where they're having issues, is with the syncing. Either it's not syncing properly or whatever. So yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.